This is Johnny and Jose with TigerBomb MMA, and tonight we'll be going over UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Gastelum, giving you our thoughts and predictions for the entire fight card. Honestly, I'm going to try to get through these as soon as possible. This week has been really weird for both of us. I just got through doing my first judging event, pretty damn tired, and I don't think I will have time for the rest of the week to actually record. So we'll do what we can just to get these out of the way. But we'll start off with a bout at middleweight between Judo Thunder Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Antonio Braganeta. Currently, the odds are in favor of Al Hassan, minus 130 for Al Hassan, Braganeta plus 110. Difficult fight to predict because Braganeta hasn't been around for quite a bit of years. Last fight was a knockout loss in the third round to Trevin Giles, a fight he was doing fairly well in the first round, but gassed out, got TKO, doesn't really move his head. Al Hassan, on the other hand, has been looking like absolute dog shit as of late after coming out of those allegations that he was cleared of. Lost to Jacob Malkoun 3 months ago. Really poor performance. He doesn't seem to have the same pep in his step anymore. He still, of course, possesses power, so he could knock out Braganeta, but being that this is middleweight and that Braganeta is a bigger guy, 6'3", 77-inch reach, I'm going to go with the underdog Braganeta to win. We saw with Jacob Malkoun, take him down, hold him there, and I think he should be okay. Braganeta is a legit black belt as long as he doesn't gas out. Frankly, both of them might gas out, but as long as he doesn't gas out and get caught, he should win this by decision. Neto by decision.
I'm also going with Neto by decision. I don't think Al Hassan has. You're right. He lost his step. Neto's not great, but I think he'll outlast him. I think he'll just win by having the dominant position on the ground. I don't think Al Hassan will be able to knock him out. So take that for what you will. This is not a great fight at all. It's just due to Al Hassan, and this guy's turned to garbage.
Our next bout at lightweight, we've got a fight between Roosevelt the Predator Roberts and Ignacio La Jaula Bahamondes, translation, The Cage. His nickname is The Cage. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Roberts, minus 145, comeback on Bahamondes, plus 125. Interesting bout between two tall, lanky dudes. The reach advantage going over to Ignacio Bahamondes by 2.5 inches. Bahamondes is a striker. Roosevelt Roberts more of a complete MMA guy, but he's not like an incredibly skilled guy in every aspect. Striking is good, wrestling is good, jiu-jitsu is good, but he makes mistakes in there. He got submitted by Jim Miller. He pulled his arm out, his long-ass arm, and he got submitted by an armbar. And his last bout with Kevin Kroom, he got cracked and then submitted with a guillotine choke standing. Luckily for him, it got turned to a no contest because Kevin Kroom likes I was going to say the shrooms, but he likes his weed. Interesting bout between these two guys, man. John Makdessi, when it comes to Bahamondes, John Makdessi really put it on his ass. And that was really hard to watch because I'm like, dude, you're the longer guy versus a guy. Yes, he's very skilled as a striker, but you should be just beating him up on the outside. But it just looks like despite how good Bahamondes is with the striking, it's very flashy, but it's not very fundamentally sound. I can see Roosevelt Roberts winning this fight by a decision. At the very least, if he gets in trouble with the striking of Bahamondes with that reach, he'll attempt to take down and take him down. Very much a coin flip fight. I wouldn't blame anyone for taking a shot on Bahamondes, but I'll officially go with Roberts to win this one by a decision. If he takes it to the ground, I can see him even just momentarily getting a slight takedown, edging out the round. So I'll go with Roberts by a decision.
Yeah, I'm going with Roberts by decision as well. I don't think either guy can finish the other. I think the slight edge will go to Roberts. And I hate to say this, just by those takedowns. I hate it when a fight, it's fairly evenly matched. And then, one guy takes the other guy down. It's like, holy crap, he dominated this round. They need to change that. But anyway, but I think he's going to take advantage of that and, get like one takedown per round, not do much, let him back up, and then just win that way, which is going to suck. These first, I don't know. I'm being a little bit not skeptical. I'm not being a downer either. What the hell's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, I think this fight is. Let's just move on. I'll go with Roberts by decision.
Moving on, bantamweight. We've got a fight between Bad News Barbie B. Maleki and Josiane Nunes. Currently, the odds have it in favor of B. Maleki. She is currently a minus 150, comeback on Nunes plus 130. Interesting bout because I was looking to fade B. Maleki. That was before I knew anything about Josiane Nunes. She's not very good. She's 7-1, 27 years old, super short for the division. She's 5'2", have no idea what her reach is, but she has little T-Rex arms. Bad News Barbie, training out of Fortis MMA, 5'9", with a 74-inch reach advantage. Because I say advantage because according to Tapology, Josiane Nunes has zero reach. Interesting bout because it's a women's MMA bout. I'm going to go with Maleki being the taller, more reachier girl. The opportunity for the head kick will be there. I'm hoping there is a knockout, but it's really tough to say. I was hoping Nunes would be more of a grappler, but no, she's kind of a brawler. Her takedown defense isn't great. Her takedowns aren't great. She's willing to pull guard for the what is it called, jumping guillotine, but she's primarily just a brawler, and she reminds me a lot of Pile Driver. What's her name? Strawweight champ Jessica Andrade. I couldn't remember her name. Like her, but if you were to like hit her with 14 tranquilizers, like you see the glimpses of her, but she's like super slow. I'll go with Maleki to win this one by a decision. Just kick her from the outside, maybe head kick her occasionally, but she should win this one. I would say hopefully easily. So I'll go with Maleki decision.
Yeah, since this is women's MMA, take this pick with a grain of salt. I think it's just going to go. I'd say the more sure thing is it's going to go over, unless there's like a head kick knockout in the first 30 seconds. So I don't know if I just jinxed that.
Maybe it's not. It's worth a shot, I would say, for the under.
Yeah, I'm going with Maleki as well, just through experience. And Josiane Nunes isn't. She isn't the lioness. Let's just leave it at that.
Next up at welterweight, we've got a bout between Ramiz Brahimaj and Sasha Palatnikov. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Brahimaj. I didn't see the odds until now. Yeah, Palatnikov comes back plus 110. This was interesting because I needed to get a refresher on both of these guys to kind of formulate an opinion. I didn't really have one officially until a couple days ago after rewatching tape. Ramiz Brahimaj, as you might know, is the guy whose ear got exploded by Max Griffin when he got elbowed. Not a good look. This guy's a pretty solid grappler, man. He can take your back and submit you. He submitted Patolino. I think his name is Marcelino William Marcario. I don't know why I keep messing up his name, but it's a Patolino, fucking Donald Duck, I believe is what it is in Portuguese. And Sasha Palatnikov, his bit of claim to fame is that he knocked out Louis Koski. And this was a guy who came in at like a plus 300 and he knocked him out. His last bout was with Impa Kasanganay. Very weird fight because Impa took him down, choked him out just with his arms, no hooks. Very strange. It looks like he was a fish out of water. He's a tall, lanky dude, 6'1", 72.5-inch reach. Oddly enough, Brahimaj, who's 5'10", has a half-inch reach advantage over him. I'm going to go with Brahimaj to win this one. I think if he implements his actual takedowns, because his last fight with Max Griffin, he didn't do any of that. He essentially tried to strike with him. I don't know why he did that. He's a pretty solid grappler. And again, he goes for submissions. Most of his wins come by submission. I can see him taking down Sasha Palatnikov, implementing his ground game, and eventually getting a submission, whether it be an armbar or a rear naked choke. As we've seen with Sasha, his rear naked choke defense was pretty shit. So I'll go with Brahimaj to win this one, second round submission. Really close fight, though, in my opinion. If Brahimaj decides to not go that route, I can see Palatnikov potentially knocking him out. I would say in the second round, maybe by a knee or something. But official pick, Brahimaj by submission, second round.
I'm taking Brahimaj by decision. I think this fight's going to go a distance. I don't see either of them finishing each other. I think Brahimaj is just going to have a little bit more output than Palatnikov. Don't really have much more to add.
A next bout at bantamweight. Interesting bout between Brian Boom Kelleher and Domingo Son of Fire Pilarte. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Brian Kelleher minus 170. Come back on Domingo Pilarte plus 150. Did I say plus 150? Yeah, plus 150. Uh, interesting bout. The thing to keep note of is the height. 6 foot tall is Domingo Pilarte, 74-inch reach. Comeback for Brian Kelleher. He's 5'6" with a 64-inch reach. And oddly enough, despite him being the shorter, less reachy guy, I got to go with Kelleher for a couple reasons. Mainly because Kelleher's a tough son of a bitch. He'll keep coming after you. He's got a really solid guillotine. I mean, one of the best guillotines in the game right now, able to submit dudes like Yuri Alcantara, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm thinking of some other Brazilian. But the thing about Domingo Pilarte is that he's pretty fucking chinny, man. He cuts a lot of weight. He's so damn tall. He's always cut and lean, but he hasn't really performed well in the UFC. He got clipped by Vince Morales in this in the Contender Series. He ended up coming back and winning that one by a submission, and then he lost to Felipe Colares by split decision. Should not have been a split. He lost two of those rounds, and then he gets knocked out by Journey Newsome in a fight where he landed the head kick, as we mentioned earlier with B. Maleki and Nunes. He lands a head kick. It seemingly doesn't even affect Newsome. Then Newsome comes back with a right hand and knocks him out. Newsome's a short, bald headed, short armed guy, similar to Brian Boom Kelleher. I can see Kelleher just bum rushing and then knocking out Pilarte. I'm going to go with Kelleher to win by finish, whether it be a knockdown to a knockout. I'm sorry, a knockdown to a submission, because I can see Pilarte going and diving for the legs, and then he gets snatched up by the guillotine. So it's up in the air, but I will go with Brian Kelleher for a finish. I'm going to say fuck it. I'll go with the submission guillotine. He hurts him and he goes for the neck.
Yeah, this one's kind of one of those weird fights because you have the guy Kelleher who has a lot more experience, who has a lot more UFC experience at that, who's older, uh, but I think he's definitely on the decline. Versus Domingo Pilarte, who's kind of this sort of up and comer. He doesn't have too much experience or UFC experience. In these cases, I'll always take the guy with more experience, especially UFC experience. Doesn't always work out, but I think if you place a bet on every, if you keep track and bet on the UFC veteran versus the incoming new guy, I think you'll be past 50% for that, so you'll make a small profit. Like I said, it doesn't always work out. But here, I think Brian Kelleher just has way more experience, and I'm pretty sure he's trained on dealing with a taller guy. So I'm going with him by, I'd say second round, rear naked choke.
Our next bout at featherweight, a very awesome fight between Luis Saldana and Austin Lingo. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Saldana, minus 135 for him. Comeback on Lingo is plus 115. Very close in my eyes between these two guys. Not necessarily when it comes to I guess the outcome, because I have a solid pick in Luis Saldana. I think he's just the overall better, well-rounded fighter. It's just that there's always a possibility for lights out Lingo to get the knockout. The thing about this fight is that he gets a little happy, or what would you call that? I guess knockout happy. Yeah. Maybe not. I don't know what I'm saying, but he just uses his hands too damn much and neglects his kicks. I don't think I've really seen him throw many kicks in his time in the UFC. Comes in, he fights Youssef Zalal, and he gets completely outworked with the footwork, because Austin Lingo was very much so just like, I'm going to go out there and strike with this guy. And Youssef Zalal just said, you know what? No, I'm going to make you fight my fight. I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to kick. I'm going to do all this shit. And it just made you think, yeah, Austin Lingo is very one dimensional with the hands. His fight with Jacob Kilburn was pretty solid. He showed, I guess, an ever improving game, but he is primarily a striker with the hands. Saldana, very smooth hands, very good kicks. I really like what I've seen from this guy. The only problem is that his fight with Jordan Griffin he showed a lot of promise in that fight. It's just that he did have a bit of an adrenaline dump, so he did not look as good as I would like to see him. As long as he comes prepared in this fight, he should be able to implement a game plan similar to Yusuf Zalal, stay on the outside, attack, throw kicks, and then he should win this one by a decision. So I've got Saldana by a decision.
I'll also take Saldana by decision, but it's just due to I think Austin Lingo's a little kind of a weird name. No, it's not due to his name. I think he didn't really impress, losing to Yusuf Zalal way back when, and then he comes back a year later. He gets a decision over Jacob Kilburn. Not really all that impressive. I mean, not that Luis Saldana impressed, has impressed all that much. He has 2 wins in the UFC. I mean, he had a solid win over Vince Murdoch. Well, on the Contender Series, that is. But then he did beat Jordan Griffin a short while ago, 4 months ago, actually. So just due to the fact, I think Saldana just has, sorry, it's not the hype train. It's the, he's got the momentum, I think, in his corner at the moment. So I think he's going to edge out Austin Lingo. I'll take him by decision.
Our next bout at light heavyweight, we've got a fight between William Nightmare Knight and Fabio Water Buffalo Cherant. Currently, the odds have it at minus 230 for William Knight. Comeback on Cherant is plus 190. Interesting bout between two guys. For whatever reason, in my head, I'm like, you know what? Maybe Cherant is a solid underdog play. But going back and rewatching some of his tape, I'm like, maybe not. He's just not very intimidating out there. Like, I for whatever reason, I like this guy. Like, I like Fabio Cherant. I want him to succeed. Just unfortunately, he's not going to win against William Knight. William Knight, he pretty much outpowers him in everywhere. He's more powerful when it comes to his takedowns. He's more powerful when it comes to his strikes. Just a overall well-built guy. And I think he's going to get the knockout. I think he'll go for a takedown, implement ground and pound, and make a pretty quick night of his return to the UFC octagon after a pretty bad decision loss to Da Un Jung. For Fabio Cherant, he had a 3-fight winning streak outside of the UFC, a couple fights in LFA. He actually, I believe, won the title in LFA, but he won the title against almost a nobody, Myron Dennis. Very lackluster. His loss to Alonzo Menefield was very fast, got taken down, got submitted. William Knight has to do the same thing. He's another big, strong guy like Alonzo Menefield. He'll take him down, but in this case, he will knock him out in the first round with ground and pound. So I'll go with William Knight by first round knockout.
Yeah, I would say this fight mirrors last week's championship fight somewhat, where you have William Knight as the kind of stockier. Actually, no, it doesn't mirror last week. If anything, I think Cyril Gane is stockier than Derek. I should say, yeah, Cyril Gane is stockier than Derek Lewis. He's more athletic, muscular, quicker. Never mind. You know what? This fight does not mirror last week's fight. I should say, William Knight, he's built like a fire hydrant, and Fabio Cherant, he's built more. He's taller, so I would say he's more like a light heavyweight Cyril Gane to a certain extent. This is William Knight's fight to lose. He'll lose it if he goes all what's her name, that retard panda girl.
Raging Panda.
If he basically blows his load in the first 2 minutes of the round, if he gets overly Ngannou, early Ngannou in there, pre-championship Ngannou, he'll lose the fight just by wearing himself out. But if he's a little bit patient, if he's new Ngannou in there, and if he has some patience, he has the power. I definitely think he has accuracy. So I think, unfortunately, for Fabio, it might be a short night. I don't know if it goes a round and a half, to be honest. I'll take William Knight by KO, possibly in the first 6-7 minutes, I would say.
And before we begin the main card, I'd like to ask, please like, share, subscribe. I'm going to post a video here because it's 2 a.m. in the morning and we're tired as shit.
All right, here's the deal. Every time you watch my show, I will send you $40.
Checks will not be honored.
Hope you liked it. Please, again, like, share, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Best Fight Picks followed me on Twitter. So, hey, maybe you should follow their lead and follow us. But to begin the main card, a short notice bout between Mana Boy Martinez and Trevin Five Star Jones. Mana was supposed to fight Jesse Strader, and another one of these guys that I just like for no reason. I like Jesse Strader. Hope he does well. I think he pulled out. No specific reason as to why. But now we've got a bout between him and Trevin Jones, another guy who lost a bout a couple times. He was supposed to fight somebody, and then it was going to be Ronnie Lawrence, and now he is fighting Mana Martinez. Why Mana took this fight, I have no idea. But currently the odds have it at minus 150 for Jones, about a plus 120, plus 125 for Mana Martinez. Initially, when I saw this on my Tapology, I'm like, oh, well, no shit. Jones is going to win by knockout. But going back and rewatching some tape on Mana Martinez, knowing that he trains with our boy, Adrian Yanez, there's some good things to like about Martinez. He's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, black belt in karate, lifelong martial artist, from what I was told in the Contender series when he got submitted by Draco Rodriguez, which is like a really bad look now, because I went back and rewatched that fight, thought to myself, like, man, this guy, Mana Martinez, sounds pretty solid. How did he lose to Draco Rodriguez? And it's more so that Rodriguez really flowed out there in that fight. He had zero fear opposed to how he looks now in the UFC, 2-fight losing streak. And you could potentially say that when Draco got Mana in that triangle, he didn't respect the grappling of Rodriguez, and he eventually went out. You could make that argument, but I did like some things when I rewatched some tape on Mana Martinez. Very nice left hook, very Adrian Yanez-esque left hook, really crispy, clean. When I'm watching his fight with Jose Johnson, he throws it, and I'm like, damn, it's a really nice left hook. Then seconds later, he knocks him out with that same left hook. And I'm like, oh man, there is a chance he could win this bout against Trevin Jones by knockout. I see that as a possibility. I might even put some money down, but I think Trevin Jones, having the better experience, fought the better guys, technically beat the better guys. He beat Timur Valiev. We've seen that he can take that ass whooping. He's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. Just ridiculous Dumamak type of one-touch power. It's hard to bet against Trevin Jones, but I might put some money on Mana Martinez. I'm just going to say that out loud. But I got Trevin Jones to win this one by a knockout. We'll see. I picture an upset happening, and I got a really good feeling on it, but logically I have to go with Jones. So I got him by second round knockout.
Yeah, I was looking at that and I was like, you know what, this might be the underdog fade, that we were, or the first one, or the big one, maybe, with the bigger payout. But looking at Trevin Jones, he's got the power, man. He's got the, like you said, the Denmark, which is, his fists act like a magnet to, that sweet spot to where, I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a feeling, a magnet, Yeah, so Trevin Jones has the death touch that Conor McGregor once possessed prior to him making, his first $100 million by way of embarrassing himself and embarrassing me by proxy. Yeah, when he first fought Floyd Mayweather, or not first, he's only fought Floyd Mayweather once. When he fought Floyd Mayweather, or rather when it was announced that he was going to fight Floyd Mayweather, that was just embarrassing on everybody's part, on my part. That was when I would not admit in public that I was an MMA fan, because they were going to be like, oh, so you're a Conor McGregor fan, huh? He's gonna beat Floyd Mayweather? No, dumbass. Anyway, Trevin Jones, he's not getting $100 million for this. So I think his death touch streak is going to continue. Um, I think he is going to. It's a trend. I think he's going to get the knockout in round number 2. Sucks for Martinez, but I think this is Trevin Jones's fight.
Our next bout at flyweight, what I would consider to be the equivalent of male masturbation. Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. This fight's going to be incredible. Anytime you get Raw Dog in there, it's just magic. And, Pantoja, he's super fun to watch. He's super aggressive. We'll see how this one turns out. I'm really looking forward to it. Currently, the odds are minus 165 for Pantoja, comeback on Raw Dog, Royval, plus 140. And I'm a pretty big fan of Raw Dog, Brandon Royval. He won me some money against Kai Kara France. I hate to say what I was doing while watching that fight. Let's just say I was in a very vulnerable state, but all you could hear is me scream Raw Dog from where I was in, in a certain room of my house. And for Pantoja, he's kind of in this weird win one, lose one, win one, lose one type of situation. His last fight was against Manel Cape, looked pretty solid, ended up beating Manel Cape, but he kind of gasses out sometimes. Like, he's very solid with the hands, very solid with the jiu-jitsu. He's taking a lot of punishment though. And he's a very smart guy. He's still very young. And frankly, Brandon Royval, he's also 29 years old. This is going to be a hell of a fight. Brandon Royval's a whirlwind of jujitsu and elbows and knees, super lanky, super fun to watch. My only concern is that he can get clipped, and I don't want to say he's chinny, but the recipe is there on TKOing Brandon Royval. His last loss was to Brandon Moreno. I wouldn't really put a whole ton of stock in that one. That was a very fun fight. What it lasted, got taken down, hurt his shoulder, and then couldn't continue further. Got pounded out. It's going to be fun. I'm a huge fan of Royval. It's just that there's so many openings for him to get cracked and hurt. Like, he got hurt against Kai Kara France, but he was so, I don't want to say lucky, but he had the wherewithal to throw the spinning back elbow and kind of hurt Kai Kara. Had that not have landed, I think Kai Kara could have finished them. And this is going to be tough. And frankly, I can see either of these guys getting finished. Royval lands something crazy and snatches the neck. I don't care how good at jiu-jitsu Pantoja is. If Royval gets your neck, you're in deep ass trouble. It's a tough one. It's a coin flip, in my opinion. As much as I want to pick Royval, again, I'm a huge fan of Brandon. I just see the possibility of him getting cracked too many times by Pantoja. I think the scrambles on the ground are going to be incredible. Brandon might get the better of them, but Pantoja, I think he's just so crafty and so well-rounded, and his chin is solid. He's very durable. If he eats one from Brandon, I think he can eat it and proceed. Maybe this is the fight where we finally see Pantoja just get caught with something and knocked out flush, which would be awesome. But I got to go with Pantoja to win this one. I think, again, he'll win the bigger moments by landing the bigger shots and maybe stumbling Brandon. He does have a weird kind of a scarecrow type of body frame where he gets touched and he like flops all over the place. That's going to lose him the round. So I'll go with Pantoja by a decision.
Yeah, I mean, this was a very hard fight for me to pick, but I'm just doing it based off of Brandon Moreno. So Royval lost to Moreno. Sure, he lost it, due to an injury. So that was kind of weird. But he does have, a great ground game, I would say. I think that's what's going to set him apart, aside from his height in this division. Because at 5'9", he is like the big show, of the 125-pound division. Or is that a fair comparison to make? Or is he more like a giant Gonzalez? Let's say, yeah. So he's tall. He towers over these guys. And actually, looking at Alexander Pantoja's record, dating back, to April of 2019, he's alternated wins and losses. So he beat Wilson Race, he lost to Figueiredo, he beat Mashnell, he lost to Askar Askarov. He beat Manel Cape. I think I'm actually going with Brandon Royval on this one. Did I say I was going with Pantoja at first?
I don't remember, dude. It's 2 in the morning.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going with Brandon Royval. Just to keep that kind of weird win-loss streak going, but more so because what I'm noticing, at least from the pattern, is that he's losing to guys that are pretty good on the ground, and I think actually Brandon's maybe better than Pantoja on the ground. So I'm going with Brandon Royval here by decision, but I wouldn't put it past them to maybe get a submission maybe in the second round.
Next bout, we have one at lightweight between Vink from Hell Pichel and Austin Thud Hubbard. Currently, the odds have it for it's a near pick'em. It's minus 115 for Pichel, minus 105 for Hubbard. I think earlier when I checked it, Hubbard was a plus 100 underdog. I think there's been some money coming in on Hubbard then. Interesting because I agree. I think Hubbard wins this one. I can see ways where he can lose this fight, absolutely. But I think Hubbard really is good at weaponizing that pace. He doesn't get tired. He really puts it on you. He's very, I don't know what you would call it. He's durable. I think Pichel, as much as I actually like Pichel, especially now that he has a wicked mustache, kind of makes him look like a badass. Well, he is a badass, but it makes him looking like an even more badass. But he's 38 years old, man. There's time's running out for this guy, and his last few fights have been, okay. He beat Roosevelt Roberts, gave him his first loss, but that was 2 years ago. In his fight with Jim Miller, he lost the first round, and he gutted it out and won the last 2 rounds, just kind of out grappling the older gentleman himself and Jim Miller. Thud Hubbard, on the other hand, he's not been the most impressive in the UFC, but I do like what I see from this guy. If you get tired with Thud Hubbard, he's going to beat your ass. And it's so weird to think that a guy like Austin Hubbard is beating the shit out of you. He looked good against Dakota Bush because he got tired. He got submitted by Joe Solecki, but man, Joe Solecki is one of these guys that's coming up, might be fighting top 5, top 10 in the near future. And then he beat the shit out of Max Roshkov so bad that he got kicked out of the UFC because he quit. And yeah, I like Thud Hubbard. He gave Marco Madsen a really tough last round, broke his jaw. And I can see him winning this one by a decision, just being the more active guy. Third round Hubbard is a problem. So I'll go with Austin Hubbard to win by a decision.
I'm actually going with Pichel on this one. He's been pretty solid in the UFC, I want to say. He's had a few bumps in the road. His latest, his last loss is to Gregor Gillespie by submission. Not bad. Yeah, Austin Hubbard. I think he's a good grappler, but I don't think he's. I wouldn't put him above Gregor Gillespie. I don't think. Roosevelt Roberts isn't too bad on the ground, and he got Jim Miller. But then again, Jim Miller's kind of like over the hill at this point. I don't think Pichel. I think Pichel has a little bit left in him, and so for that, I will take him over Hubbard here by decision. I don't think he can finish Hubbard, but I think he'll just be able to outwork him even in the third round. I should say for sure in the first and second. That should get him, I think the fight. And then the third round, he'll maybe, put it into cruise control and get that, 9-10 or something or whatever. But yeah, I think I'll take him by decision.
Our next bout at heavyweight, we've got a fight between the Vanilla Gorilla Chase Sherman and Portly Parker Porter. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Chase Sherman minus 180, comeback on Porter plus 155. Being that it's heavyweight, there's always the possibility that the underdog can get a knockout. I can see a way that Parker Porter just bum rushes Chase Sherman and knocks him out. I put a lot of stock into his win over Josh Parisian, where I'm like, wow, he really put it on Josh Parisian. And, maybe that loss to Chris Dawkins is just that he fought a guy that's way out of his league. And we've noticed now that Chris Dawkins is in a different league right now. At heavyweight, those hands are vicious, but that Josh Parisian win ain't shit. Josh Parisian doesn't belong to UFC. He's proven that time and time again. Chase Sherman, on the other hand, despite the fact that he's not the best fighter, even at heavyweight, and his wins aren't that great. Last fight was a loss to Andrei Arlovsky, where he looked really good in the first round, but lost the last two. He's just demonstrated he's the more complete striker. Very nice kicks, low kicks, especially elbows, knees. He's a taller guy by 4 inches, longer reach by 3 inches. I can see Chase Sherman knocking out Parker Porter in the first round, but more actively, more accurately, I should say, it'll be in the second round. I think he'll get off on that low leg kick. Parker Porter, I think he will bum rush, but I think Chase Sherman's just too experienced to let any punches like that really connect on him. If they do, sucks, but Chase Sherman, he's got a wealth of experience with the striking, so I'll go with him to win by a second round knockout.
I'm actually going with Parker Porter here via bum rush the first round. That's all I have to say. This fight isn't really all that. I don't think it's going to be all that technical.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think that's a possibility. The next bout, co-main event, we've got pretty interesting bout. Clay the Carpenter Guida versus the Olympian Marco Madsen. Currently, the odds have it in favor of Madsen minus 165. Comeback on Guida is plus 140. Very crazy little fight that they put together because these two guys are 3 years apart in age, and Clay Guida has way more experience. He's 36-20-0. What is that? 56 fights in total, opposed to Marco Madsen, who's got 10 fights and 0 losses. And man, is there a possibility Clay Guida can win this bout? Absolutely. I think he can. But I hate to say it, the younger guy, 36 years old, and Marco Madsen, despite him not being as experienced, he doesn't have that many miles on his body. MMA miles. He's been an Olympic level athlete, wrestler for a long time, coming out of Denmark. And I think he actually has the ability to finish the fight and knock out Clay Guida. The wrestling is going to essentially, I don't want to say negate itself out. Marco Madsen is a much better wrestler, and I can guarantee that he can get takedowns. I don't want to say easily, but semi-easily on Clay Guida. I see a path to victory for Marco Madsen to win by a knockout. I won't be lying to you guys and saying that I'm not considering putting some money down on Clay Guida to win by possible finish. I think Guida, man, despite him being that old, that experience that speaks a lot when it comes to this bout. If he can stuff the takedowns of Marco Madsen, if Mark isn't that great of a wrestler as we think he is, I think he is. But if for whatever reason Clay Guida can stuff those takedowns, it might be a really tough night for Marco Madsen. I'm still going to go with Mark to win by second round knockout. I think he does have a lot of power, as we've seen with his debut fight in the UFC where he knocked out Danilo Bilardo. He's got power, so I can see him winning this one by, again, second round TKO.
Yeah, this fight is going to be similar to, I think, Khabib versus who's the last guy that he beat? The squinty-eyed guy. He's kind of cross-eyed as well.
Gagey,
yes.
Squinty-eyed guy.
Squinty, cross-eyed guy. Yeah, I think this is going to be similar to that in that Marco Madsen, Guida, he has his, now to a lot lesser extent, Energizer Bunny style, where he's kind of hopping around all over the place. He has a ton of volume and whatnot. So this is not going to be, old school Clay Guida versus Diego Sanchez, where they're just kind of, throwing these pitter-patter punches at each other. This is going to be Clay Guida trying to, piece up Marco Madsen, and then Marco Madsen taking him to the ground. Sure, could Clay Guida stuff takedowns? Yes, I think he'll stuff a few. But then, I think Marco Madsen is going to go, Khabib level, or Khabib mode, I should say, where sure, you can stuff, 1, 2, but can you stuff 10 straight takedowns? Can you stuff 20 straight however many, because there's levels to it. And there's a lot of guys who are like, yeah, sure, I can stuff takedowns, they can stuff a few. But then when you have guys like Khabib, or in that mindset where they don't care if you stuff a takedown. They're going to keep going. And then in training, a lot of these guys aren't training stuffing 100 takedowns in a row or whatever, but Khabib, he's training, trying to take guys down, I'm sure, try after try after try until, he wears guys out. So I think Mark Madsen's take the same approach. And I think he can finish Guida if he wears him out, from grappling and whatnot, despite Guida having that, kind of style where, you think he's super energetic and he never runs out of energy. He might run out of energy because he's kind of old and he doesn't have the same pep in his step that he used to. So I'll take Madsen by decision. Yeah, I don't think he'll be able to finish him. He's not. I don't see Madsen as the as having the same level of jiu-jitsu as Khabib. So if he did work on that, he might he'd be super dangerous. But at this point, he's just like he's a Danish version sort of Merab Dvalishvili. All right, before I hurt myself, who I'm talking about, Merab. Yeah, so Mark Madsen.
I forgot to mention, I knew this, I just completely forgot. He's training at a Fight Ready now with Henry Cejudo. So that's a good indicator. So just throwing that out there.
There we go. So so that means he should be pretty ready to bite some shins out there. He's added that to his repertoire.
Our next bout and main event at middleweight, Jared Killer Gorilla Cannonier versus Kelvin Gastelum. Currently, the odds have it minus 160 for Cannonier. Comeback on Gastelum plus 130. Interesting bout between two guys. Both of these guys lost to Robert Whittaker recently. And I'll be upfront and frank, I don't really have the best read on this one because Cannonier, he's 37 years old and he's looked like he's improving throughout the years, although his last loss was, of course, to Robert Whittaker. Got his arm broken. Just no shame in that. Robert Whittaker is just excellent middleweight, former champion. And for Kelvin Gastelum, his fight with Robert Whittaker did no favors for him at all. He looked really bad. Like he could not get off on anything. He tried to bum rush him. He couldn't touch him. He got taken down. It was a bad look for Kelvin. I will say, though, he looked super durable because he was eating shots. And then literally he would have his head basically snap all the way back and he would rush forward after Robert Whittaker. And I really like seeing that from Kelvin. Did not like seeing anything else from Kelvin. And frankly, yeah, I think Cannonier is the rightful favorite because despite his age, he has looked like the better fighter. And Kelvin, even at 29, has looked like he is diminished in skill. And it's just hard to see. It's a tough one for me to pick. I'm going to pick blindly. I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum to win this one. His hands are good. His wrestling is good. Or should I say his hands used to be good and his wrestling used to be good. And I don't know if I hate to say it, but he might be done when it comes to fighting because he just doesn't seem to have it anymore. And I hate seeing it when young guys who were on top of the world at one point looking incredibly skilled, they just seemingly drop off. I don't want to believe that. So I'm going to go with the route that, Kelvin has just fought a lot of murderers row. And he fought Adesanya. He fought Darren Till to a split decision. He lost to Jack Hermanson by an opportunistic heel hook. And then he beat Ian Heinisch, but who doesn't? And then Robert Whittaker beat his ass. So, even with the MMA math of, Jack Hermanson beat Gastelum, but Cannonier beat him by knockout. Not always the best. It's a 5-round fight. I think that favors Gastelum. If he can push it into the later rounds, I think he can win this fight by a knockout. I'll go with a 4th round TKO. Not the most confident pick out there. Just, it's a tough one. It's going to be a fun main event, but I really don't have the best read. Let me know what you guys think on this one in the comments below. But yeah, what do you think, Jose? I have no idea.
So this one, I see 2 different paths to victory. On the feet, I think Jared Cannonier has, the power. He has the accuracy. Whereas on the feet, Kelvin Gastelum, I think he's going to have the volume and the durability. Not that Cannonier isn't durable, but Gastelum has been through some wars. On the ground, it's a whole other story. On the ground, it's Gastelum's world. If he's going to win, it's going to be by controlling Cannonier on the ground. I think how I see the fight going is the first 2 rounds is going to be a feeling out process. I think Cannonier is going to have the advantage in volume and significant strikes in the first 2 rounds. But then I see, and I think Gastelum is going to be a little bit shy to try to take him down in the first 2 rounds because he knows that that's when Cannonier is going to be freshest and be able to stuff those takedowns. But I think going into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, that's when Gastelum is going to try to implement his wrestling, routine basically, which is, try to throw some jabs, some overs, hooks, whatever, and then go for a single or double leg, and then control him on the ground for a little bit, pitter patter him, and then I think he's going to get the last 3 rounds, by decision. I think, because Cannonier is kind of a turtle on his back. He's not exactly a jiu-jitsu whiz, or I think he'll have the strength to get up. But will he have the strength to get up, multiple times? And I think that'll just wear him out. And I think that's when Gastelum will kind of do his thing where you think, oh, this guy can't, outstrike Adesanya. He did for a bit. But unfortunately for him, Adesanya just he had that, extra chi or extra, what is it? Damn it, I haven't seen Naruto in a while. It's chakra. He has that extra chakra, that he pulled out to beat Gastelum. I think this is Gastelum's fight to lose. He's 29, but in MMA years, he's a lot older. He's been in this game since he was young. Unfortunately for him, I think he hasn't, by way of his own doing, or his coaches or training partners, or his advisors, basically his management, he hasn't had somebody sit him down and be like, look, through the bad stretch that he had. Not that losing to Whittaker or Adesanya or, those other guys was bad, but this guy has a lot of talent. He's a great wrestler, because wrestling is what got him into the UFC. And his striking has improved, drastically. His jiu-jitsu is great. I mean, he knocked out Bisping. How many people can say that?
2.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was pretty good timing. And so, yes, he went up to middleweight because, he likes his tacos, or, whatever the hell his mom feeds him at home. It's not bad, but, you got to have some discipline. You're a professional fighter. You got to limit that shit. You know what I mean? Because I think he'll be a killer at welterweight. For sure, I think he'd be champion at welterweight. To be honest, he could have. What I think was Gastelum's prime was in his early mid-20s. He definitely should have been champion then. You know what I mean? Competing with Robbie Lawler, Condit way back when. For sure, he would have beat Woodley. You know what I mean?
Well, he lost to Woodley.
Yeah, he lost to Woodley, but I'm saying, had he been disciplined, he would have beat Woodley, man. I think he's way more talented.
Had to throw it out there just in case. Well, he lost to Woodley in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. He would have beat Woodley in his prime had he been disciplined. He could have, this guy could have been, the next BJ Penn type prodigy where, it's like, wow, he brought the welterweight division out of its funk or out of its embarrassing GSP phase. He could have brought some actual respect to that division, which there's still no respect. at least, by way of the champions of the last, several years. Except for Johnny Hendricks, man. That guy kicked so much ass. And
I was gonna say he kicked so much ass, but he probably ate some of it too.
yeah, well,
The,
can't blame a guy for wanting to eat ass.
fuckers
It's his thing.
overweight because of eating ass.
It's his thing, man. And you know what? And he only hit GSP with 60% power. So, there's that. Because he won that fight with 60% power. Anyway, yeah. So I see Gastelum as being, those one of those what if fighters. What if he had that discipline? What if he had that kind of Kane-esque put? I think at one point he was being compared to Kane, right?
Oh yeah,
Kane Velasquez. Because if he had that same, I'm pretty sure his bones aren't as brittle as Kane's. But if he had that sort of Kane, discipline and whatnot, man, this guy, we'd be talking about like, hey, Kelvin Gastelum, this guy's the best. He'd be, everybody's like, yeah, I remember some guy named GSP, but hey, we got Kelvin now. It didn't work that way. His fat ass, moved up to middleweight. He's done well. He hasn't exactly made it, to that upper tier where he's, where there's like 3 or 4 guys who are always going to be like kind of circling each other. I mean, one's going to be champion, but then the others are going to like challenge him and challenge each other and whatnot. He's not there, unfortunately. He doesn't have the size for it, I don't think. And so I don't know where the hell I was going with this, but anyway, he's the younger guy. And he has about 24. Yeah, funny thing, he's a younger guy, but he has way more fights than Cannonier. I think depending on how he trained for this fight, I think he'll be able to make it fairly exciting. Bring it to the ground, but also show Cannonier that he's got hands as well. I'm actually going with Kelvin on this one. I think he'll be able to. Actually, you know what? Let's wait till weigh-ins. I'm going with Kelvin, but that's tentative. If he comes in with should I say 2-pack? If he comes in with a 2-pack, not the wrapper, but if he comes in, with 2 abs, I think it'll be an even fight. If he comes in with 4 abs, then I think he's got the fight. So let's wait till weigh-in day and see how many abs he's got.
It's funny that you bring up the possibility of a mythical creature of like salad eating Kelvin Gastelum. He would have been world champ.
Yeah. Oh man, that made me choke. That was funny. That's for me. That's as soon as I figure out how to Photoshop memes, that's going to be the we're gonna do our what ifs, and that's
our own version of the what if scenarios from like Marvel and shit. What if Kelvin Gastelum did not fucking pig out on Mexican food and But those have been our picks for UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Gastelum. Please like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Do you think salad eating Kelvin Gastelum would be champion? But again, that's been Johnny and Jose with TigerBomb MMA, and we'll catch you at the next fight.